Welcome in to Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse, the business voice of Chicago for you. Been a week or two since we've been together, Bill, but a crazy couple of weeks for us, and glad to have you back in studio.
Yeah, it's great to be back. It was crazier for you than for me by a long shot. So you got the oldest one married off and off the
oldest daughter.
The oldest daughter. Yeah. She's married off and now off the money list and everything, right? Now you just got to spend a few. Should we start a GoFundMe page?
Yeah, right. I told my son, and he's 29, and my 21-year-old daughter, I'm like, you guys have to wait like 6 years before you get married so I can recoup some of this money that
Yeah, just be careful.
Yeah. And listen, an absolute blessing of a day.
Yeah.
An incredible weekend, exhausting emotionally.
That's just fantastic. I was blessed with seeing some of the pictures, and it was obvious there was a lot of love going around there.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
That's good. Awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah. Of course, today we've got a good friend of the show. He's been on a couple of times, the author of Idea Climbing, our good friend Mark Carter. Mark, how are you this morning?
So far, so awesome. Cannot complain.
There you go.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think last time we had you on, we were right at the cusp of the book.
Yes.
I wanted to get you back on because the book's been out for a little while.
Yeah.
I've read it. But you're having some good numbers, and I kind of like the way you went about it. And this is something I think a lot of people may be interested in learning. If you're thinking about or involved in writing a book, and what do you do with it? Because everybody wants to write a book, go out on Amazon, sell 10 copies and say, I'm the bestseller now for the month, and go out and say I'm a bestseller, to everybody around the world. And it's like, well, you sold 10 copies. But there's more to it. This is a game. There's more to it. And you've been through it. So you might want to help us out and help us understand some of the processes.
As far as the marketing of the book?
Yeah, exactly. You get sales.
Well, one of the simple things that a lot of people don't do, what they do wrong is they'll say, oh, go to Amazon, search March, and search this, and then dig through the books, and then hope you find it. Get a domain name like I did, ideaclimbingbook.com, and just redirect it to the long Amazon URL, and that alone is huge. And what I've learned from marketing on Facebook and LinkedIn with their algorithms, if you put in an outside link, they don't like you. They want people to stay on their platform, so you will not rank high. A lot of your friends won't see it. However, they can't read a JPEG picture. So when I posted the one that you saw on Facebook, Bill, I just put www.ideaclimbingbook.com and read at the bottom of the picture with no live link, and it ranked really well. A lot of my friends saw it. So there's a lot of little tricks like that a lot of people don't know about. They think, oh, I'll just link to my book. Well, less people are going to see it then.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never written a book, and I've only read one, so I don't have a lot of experience.
It was mine.
It was yours. But yeah, that's interesting. I just, and I like the fact that they were telling you to go into certain categories that may be more beneficial, make more sales or something. Am I correct in what I saw on Facebook and how you said, no, I'm going in where it's supposed to be?
Here's free advice that you normally have to pay for. Most of the, not most, but a lot of the book marketing consultants out there, this is what they do. They take your book, they go into your Amazon account, or worse yet, they keep you in theirs, and you rank like these minuscule, obscure categories where literally sometimes it's even 10 books that week come out, but you get a blue ribbon, you get to say Amazon best-selling author. And the hook is they're obscure for a reason. Nobody's looking there. So I put mine, Idea Climbing is about planning and creating a blueprint. So I put mine in 2 planning, business sessions, and entrepreneurship, which people told me if I put it in entrepreneurship, you're not going to rank. It's too crowded. And the one you saw there, consider there's millions of books on Amazon, hundreds of thousands in entrepreneurship. My recent boost put me at 1,007 in entrepreneurship. And they said, you can't do that. And we did.
That's fantastic. That's why I wanted to bring that up, Mark, and wanted to get you back in here because like I said, I've read the book. I loved it. It is, I think it's a strong part if you're an entrepreneur out there, and this show is about being entrepreneurs and how to develop. This is a great book to have. So fill us in a little bit on the book itself.
The book itself came from, I started a short version of a long story. Senior year in college, I wanted to be on my own. I wanted to be Tony Robbins. It did not happen, unfortunately, but that was the plan. So in my DNA,
Good for you.
it was a dream. Maybe someday later, just not in my 20s, unfortunately. And I wanted to be on my own. So I thought, and it was just in my DNA, if you want to be successful, talk to successful people. So anyone that would give me the time of day, 20 minutes on the phone, a cup of coffee, anyone that was successful in their field, and digging through my paper notebooks, I found my first 2 interviews from 1999, a Grammy Award-winning jazz musician and the head coach of University of Michigan's basketball team at the time. And it was just reminiscing and looking at that. And a few years ago, I realized, and mentors told me, it's like, because I take notes and my notes are action oriented. I didn't get into fluff, daytime talk show stuff. I didn't care about, their childhood. Not that I didn't care about it, but I only got 20 minutes. Learning about childhood is not going to move the needle. And there's nothing for me to share that I learned from them. So it was to get one action item from each interview. And 20 some years later, realized, wow, there's a book here. So the book is based on my interviews with people and my research, people that aren't here anymore, like Napoleon Hill, who sold over 100 million copies of Think and Grow Rich. I read his entire biography from his foundation just to get one story for the book. So that's something advice for writers. Put stories, it takes time, but don't just put it from one person's perspective. Add stories, do some research. If you're not into networking, there's plenty of books on Amazon. You can buy biographies, autobiographies, because people like stories and they relate to them. They don't relate to academic books that are just a bunch of how-to notes.
Yeah, it's a lot of us have this feeling that if we write something that it's great, and we think it's great. I'm as guilty of that as anybody, and I've written speeches and done speeches and things, and think I've done a really good job. And then you go back and watch it, and you get a critique by a true pro, and you learn that oh boy, I could have done that a lot better. But I mean, you took 20 years, and you're doing all kinds of research. That's true in anything you do. I think, in especially in business and decisions that you make, you do your homework. I mean, so many people nowadays don't, right? They just believe whatever they want to believe, and they see something and they read it and they go, oh, that's true. I mean, how many different diets are out there? It's kind of like everybody says, oh no, this is the best diet and this is the best diet. I'm like, okay, but you just gained 10 pounds, or certain financial folks that say, here, do my program and you'll be out of debt in 8 years. And it's kind of like, how long have you been with that person? Well, I've been with them 12 years. Are you out of debt? Well, no. I'm like, well, then what are you doing? And we fall into these traps, and it's doing due diligence, do your homework, do your research. I do it for every show. It's very, very important. I mean, know the people you're talking to or talking about.
Well, I like what you said about critique. Go to people that will give you honest feedback. Don't just send it to friends and family who give you a pat on the back. And a great story about my book with that, I won't say the name, but a very good friend of mine, New York Times bestselling author, gave it to her. She read it. She came back with, this could be, it was something like, I can't put my name on this. This could be 8 different books and a few other things. It's like, oh, punch to the gut. But I took it constructively, reworked the book, and now I got an awesome testimonial. But if she hadn't said that, how many people would have thought that when they read the book and bought it? So thank God I asked for honest feedback and real critiques.
So key. I mean, you can be surrounded with people that will think that you're doing everything just right, right? And we think we're doing it just right ourselves. We think we have a masterpiece here until we talk to a real pro, and they kind of gently inform us that we've still got a lot of work to do. But it only took you 20 years.
Writing the book took a few less than that, but overnight success, 20 years in the making.
Yeah. Well, so how long did it take you to actually write the book?
It was a few years because of the research and the interviews. What I would do is I found mentoring. Okay, that's going to be a chapter in the book based on my notes of people that I've interviewed. Now it comes time to get the stories for mentoring. And that was one where I had to dig through books, and now I had a focus of, okay, now I have to do even more research. I can't just say mentoring is important. I have to give stories about it. And that was one. I interviewed people for my YouTube station, and one of my interviews was, I'm dating myself here in the sports world, but Bo Jackson. And we talked just about mentoring, how it changed his life, what his coaches did, his mom did, and all that good stuff. But I had to create those experiences to get the information to put in the book. It wasn't just like I had to sit down and write 1,000 words a day from my own thoughts. It was research and stories. It took all the time.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up, basically Bo Jackson and look, all athletes, great athletes, they have a team that help them out, and it's all great people. It doesn't matter what field that they're in. They're not doing it themselves. They have a team because we can't do it all ourselves. It's just not possible. You can try. Don't know how long you live, but it'll get to you at some point. But so I love that. Yeah, talking and learning about the support that's required and needed in order for somebody to achieve some of the levels that they achieve. I don't think you can do without talking to other people and without getting coaching and mentoring and whatnot. There's still a lot in the corporate world. People still get those promotions, but they don't get the support. It's I don't want to name the company, but I do know of somebody who was just put in charge of a Chicago operation for a Fortune 50 company, and within a couple of months realized that this is not a manager. This is not somebody who can manage people. This is somebody who's very good at what they do, but adding on managing people was let's say not a. I wouldn't say it was a mistake, but you're asking them to do something that they haven't done before, and then you're not supporting them. So that's important stuff. But more back to the book kind of stuff.
Mentoring was one of the things that almost, whether they called it a coach, consultant, mentor, whatever the word they used, almost every successful person I interviewed had that in their life. And the ones who hit the highest levels of success, hands down, everyone had help along the way. Everyone had mentors at the higher levels.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Really interesting. So how many people did you interview altogether?
Oh my God.
You haven't been asked this before? I'm going to throw tough questions at you.
I have no idea, but definitely hundreds. I mean, it could be somewhere between 300 to 500 easily. I didn't keep count, and I didn't want to go through all the notebooks and count how many people it was.
All right. So you got an idea, and you had to choose from all of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had to go through a lot of paper notebooks. That also took a lot of time.
Right. And then you still had to do your research.
Uh-huh.
So for our listeners out there, a paper notebook would has a spiral on it,
right?
That's like when I talk to college, especially undergrad college classes now. If I slip up and use the term Rolodex, I get blank stares.
Right.
And I have to tell them, okay, it's used to sit on your desk. It's like LinkedIn, but it's on your desk physically, and you can touch it. Okay, LinkedIn.
Yeah. I'm only about a year and a half from still using the old school calendar books that you carry with you and write in there and scratch things out and write new ones in and doing it that way. I finally got into the Google thing, and everybody's like, you got to get on Calendly now or whatever calendar thing. And I'm sitting there going, no, because I folks, take a note. If you have a calendar and people can get on it, that's great. But don't send them 10 reminders of your meeting, within 2 days of your meeting, because it makes me not want to meet with you.
We've got. Don't forget 10 minutes. Don't forget.
Yeah. 3 minutes. Emails, text. It's like, okay, from now on, when I'm going down somebody's calendar, I'm not putting my email and my text or my phone number on there, because I don't want, I'm an adult. I know we set an appointment. I know we're having a meeting. I'll be there. If I'm not there, that'll tell you enough about me that you probably shouldn't want to meet with me again.
Yeah, I stopped putting my phone number in too, because it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, people make mistakes, or things happen. Yeah. But it's just, and you can control that too, right? How many times the reminders go out?
Yeah, there's settings in there, and that's what's even more annoying. It's not like the person can say, "Oh, it's not my fault. That's just how it works." Like, no, that's not just how it works. There's settings in there, and you can do it as many times as you want.
Yeah. That's I hope people are listening in that I have meetings with in the next 3 weeks. Go in there and reset. I mean, 1 or 2 is fine. I don't have a problem with that. But when I get 3 emails in an hour and a half and 2 texts the day before saying now you're within 24 hours, now you're within 12 hours, it's an hour, it's 15
sometimes
minutes.
It's even 10 minutes. Yeah, I was just going to say sometimes it's even 10 or 15 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. You know what? I'm either already prepared at that point in time and sitting there ready to start the meeting, or I'm not going to show up.
Right.
I'm somewhere else, totally forgot about it.
Mhm.
But and that happens.
It happens.
You know, and
It's
give
okay.
grace and move on. But back to the book.
Mhm.
Where can we can find it on Amazon?
IdeaClimbingBook.com will take you right to the Amazon page.
IdeaClimbing.com.
IdeaClimbingBook.com.
IdeaClimbingBook.com. We're trying to bring that up.
Boom, there it is.
There it is.
Yep.
IdeaClimbingBook.com.
Makes it easier
Definitely
to
worth
find
it.
Perfect. Yep, I got it. We're good.
I mean, this is not just for business. You know, I mean, it can be, personal things as well.
I think business, once you get into it, business and personal clash or combine, depending on glass half full, glass half empty attitude about life. But I don't think there's not anymore this big separation of personal and business with most people. It's just
There's so much talk about balancing, your professional
work-life balance.
Work-life balance. Give it up, folks. It's just life balance, because it's not like work isn't part of your life, right? And your personal side, they affect each other. So it's just life balance to me. But I can understand how some people would look at it.
Well, if you have a bad day at work, you're going to have a bad night at home. If you have a good day at work, you're going to have a good night at home. It just is what it is. It's not like most people, at least. I'm sure there's some people out there, but most people, at least, it's not like you just hit a switch and say, "Oh, I'm home," or "Oh, I'm at work. I'm happy. I'm sad." Whatever. It's like, no. It just
and usually we're always in a good mood on Friday, and we're not so good a mood on Monday. And we've been trained to think that way. That I gotta go to work tomorrow. Don't think about it. It's still the weekend. Don't ruin your weekend. It's like if you love what you're doing, it doesn't matter because you're always doing it. If you're an entrepreneur, you're working 24/7. You're always thinking about your business. You can't help it. You can't stop it. And so it mixes in with your life. It is your life for the most part. So if you don't want that kind of lifestyle, then you can go be a franchisee and do a business in a box. That's always a good thing to do for some folks. Or you can go work for the corporate world and be told what to do every day and fulfill that, get your paycheck, and go home and watch your favorite movie or something.
Well, what I love about the book and what I think, and I don't know, maybe this was the whole intent of the book was, you go by, if I were to be a bumper sticker, a lot of good ideas are in a graveyard, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So was the idea to build this book to really help people who have good ideas mold it, move it, go to that next level, or was your intent to
what's it take?
Right.
It was the intent is to show people if you surround yourself with a support system, you can go further, and how to build a support system, how to leverage relationships, build the right ones, get rid of the wrong ones. It's not all rah-rah. There are toxic relationships that people should get rid of at times. So that was the thing, is that so many people think, "Oh, I'll go alone," or worse yet, "Oh, someone's going to steal my idea. I can't tell." If you don't tell anyone, no one can help you. It's kind of like telling a mentor that, "Oh, everything's fine," when it's not, or fake it till you make it in college. "Oh, pretend you're this, pretend you're that." It's like, if you present that everything is great in life, no one can help you.
Right.
Because if everything is great, there's nothing I can do for you. No mentors will appear because there's nothing to help with, because you're presenting everything is great, and it could be absolutely horrible. People have to be vulnerable, was another part of the book, and the successful people were vulnerable enough to ask for help. And one time when I realized that many years ago, I was with a newer friend, and I was having a rough time building a team. I mean, just it was not good. It wasn't going well. And I could have, because I wanted to present as a successful entrepreneur. Oh, everything's great. I got this, I got that. It's all good.
Yeah.
And I told him, like, I'm trying to build a team and I'm having trouble. Oh my God. And I told him a little bit more about it. He referred me to an entrepreneur who works with entrepreneurs to help them build teams. And the guy mentored me. If I hadn't been vulnerable and presented everything as perfect, God knows how much longer I would have struggled to try and build a team.
The key there. How much longer would you struggle if you don't make yourself vulnerable and let what everybody already knows, that not everything, anybody where everything's perfect, everything's great. I mean, I know people that portray that, but you also know the facade behind it. But this is important. This is really super important about learning how to do this, because without that, the risk of you bringing somebody on that could be toxic is very high. And that kind of a thing can set you back a lot in both time, money spent on building something. So it's really important to understand, how to put the right team together, and it can't be yes men. You know better than I do. You wrote the book, but the people who you have great respect for, and you can reach out and say, hey,
well,
I'm building something. Can you help me?
Well, what I like too is it's not Mark's voice that I hear when I read the book, right? I do have an autographed copy, by the way, but the idea climbing is, it's easy when you read a book from a guru, right? To say, all right, they got lucky, or they had a better life, or their dad was a millionaire, or you know what I mean? This is a collection of very successful people, and I'm not hearing Mark's voice as I would, awaken the sleeping giant within. Well,
it's not a me book.
Tony Robb.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh God, that's one thing I want to avoid like the plague. It's not about me.
Yeah, it's you explain what was the message you're trying to get across when you sat down and said, I'm going to write a book. Why do I want to write this book?
Because I was giving advice and I was doing speaking and consulting and all this other stuff. And I was sharing these stories and great advice. And that was one mentor started saying, after hearing the 5th, 6th story, like, why, this is a book. Why are you just verbally telling one person at a time or one audience at a time? And I realized that that's what I wanted to share. If I didn't have these mentors and these people, and even some of the research would give me ideas through biographies and autobiographies, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah.
Well, I needed to share that.
It's a way to reach more people too, right? I mean, when you believe you have a great idea and you believe you have information and knowledge that you want to share that will help people, well, then you got to start thinking about, how can I reach more people?
But there's stories in this book too. I mean, a lot of self-help book, quote unquote, would be in this category, are about breaking out of the chains and being an entrepreneur. Well, what I love about this book is there are stories in this book about, no, if you work in a large corporation, how do you get your idea? How do you form that group? How do you get that support system in a large corporation too, to move that idea forward?
Yeah. Right.
I mean, and that to me is for, if you work, this book will help you with that.
Yeah. Cause let's not talk about, entrepreneur doesn't mean it's a single person.
Yeah.
An entrepreneur is a person who comes up, he has an idea, he or she has an idea, and wants to move that forward and thinks that, this is a worthwhile product or service to provide to masses.
Well, even if it's one other person, I mean, Home Depot came out of I think it was Arthur Blank was his name, but they got him and the 2 co-founders got kicked out of corporate America under very bad circumstances. They got reputations damaged, all this stuff. And it was just a phone call. It was Bernie who it was, the other one. Bernie got a phone call from a friend and pointed out and had a long conversation about, now you can, that home store you've been talking about, this is the perfect time to do it. And all it took was a phone call. And it doesn't have to be a group of people. Ideally it is. But another story I love that I read an entire biography for to find was Elvis Presley. Everyone talks about his big break. And it's like, oh, he went in, sang a song for his mom in a studio. Sam Phelps recognized him and poof, he's Elvis Presley. that was an expensive studio down south. He could have gone to any other studio and paid at least half the price for recordings. He went there because of Sam Phelps' reputation, and that studio could help him with his career. He talked to the receptionist about joining bands. Who do you know that needs help? It was over a year of going back again and again and again and again and again and again. Then Sam took him under his wing. Then the magic happened. But it's like that's an overnight success, like a year and a half in the making. And he was very intentional about it. It wasn't random. But people only hear about, oh, poof. And some people think, oh, I have to have 20 people around me. You don't. Sometimes all it takes is one person. So it doesn't have to be this overwhelming, oh my God, I need to build a super team.
Yeah.
Now, do you have stories in there too that I've invited the wrong people to the brainstorming?
The toxic people.
Yeah. So are there stories in your book that cover that as well?
Yeah, it's to go from toxic to thriving. And how to let people go, nicely let them go, let it fizzle out, focus on the toxic ones, or at least the supportive ones. And then there's just the neutral ones who are there. But the cool thing is you can move along the spectrum. You can go from supportive to thriving. You can also go from toxic to non-existent or neutral.
There you go.
Yeah, and this is not like a team that you say, okay, this is going to be my team going forward forever. Some people might come in and out of your life, from occasion, from time to time. I call them angels. The ones that come into my life, it may be every other month or every 3 months or something. Just, hey, how's it going? What's going on? Provides a little bit of advice or contact or somebody else to talk to. Those are kinds of folks you definitely want to have around you. People are watching your back, supporting you. But not sitting there being a yes man saying, okay, you've got a problem, or you got a situation, or you better watch out. You're walking into a problem or a situation. And it, like you said, it could be one person, could be a dozen, depending upon what you're trying to do and accomplish. Right.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, with mentors too, it's advice, but to me, at least within the idea climbing framework, mentorship, so many people just match you up and say, Bill's your mentor. And it's like, what? Or you find someone that's a mentor on your own, and if you really think about it, you end up talking about coffee. They share some life stories that are fun, but nothing moves the needle. To me, what I've learned from these people is that mentoring is advice, support, and connections. And the advice is experiential advice. Here's what I did. You let the mentee figure it out on their own. Here's what I did in your situation, or here's what my friend did. I'm going to share a how-to story. This is how I got out of it, or this is how I created it, whatever it might be. And they figure it out on their own. But the hook is also sometimes the advice is not going to be rah-rah. The advice is going to be, oh my God, do not try and start this business. No venture capitalist is going to back you. And that's what I think people miss with mentoring. And it's a good thing because you could save years of your life not chasing something where someone can go, look at, I've tried it. It's not going to work. And I think some people think mentoring is all rah-rah, and it's not.
Right.
Well, and some people think that if I come up with a great idea and I'm going to start a business, I'm going to be rocking and rolling in a year. And good luck. I mean, if you can do it within 5 years and start making money, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it takes time. But let me ask you this question for both of you. Is there a difference between a mentor, a coach, and a consultant?
Yes. In reverse order, a consultant you're paying for, and generally they're coming in with a framework.
Yeah.
Like the big consulting firms, they're coming in with, this is our methodology, tried and true. They custom tailor it for their clients, but it's a methodology and a framework that they have existing that they're coming into. The coach brings, and you pay for a consultant. You also pay for a coach, and a good coach at least can bring stories and ideas and everything out from you. So it's giving you aha moments of, wow, that's what I did wrong, or that's what I did right. And usually, you're going to meet with your coach, but there's not, with coaching, there's usually not a framework, a strict one like consulting. And I think where people go wrong is mentoring is free. From the people I heard that use the word mentor, and some people say, I'm going to charge you. As soon as you charge, you're a coach. That's not a mentor. So mentoring is, and the mentor has a vested interest in some level of your life. It does tend to be a little more personal because they're giving you free advice, and especially if you're talking to successful people. But that's how I separate the three. And a lot of people just mush them all together, and it's that's not how it goes.
So do I just go walking down the street and I run into Kent and say, hey, Kent, will you be my mentor?
That's that's in the book too. I made a case for not asking someone to be your mentor. I've been blessed with mentors for the last 23 years. I have never once asked anybody to be my mentor. Never. The way I say to go about it, this is how the successful people did it too, is they let it happen organically. The first thing you have to know before getting a mentor or even starting to search for one, you have to have a problem that needs solving, and you need to be clear about it. I get it. Glass half full, half empty, fine. You have an opportunity you want to create. You have to be clear about it. Then, like what I thought I was going to be Tony Robbins and a keynote speaker and coach. I would go and search for people who were successful in keynote speaking and coaching. Why? My problem is I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to search people out who have done it before. So there's a reason. And that's when you approach them the first time. My big thing now, especially with social media and everything, everything is today, is reach out. And this is key to say, hey, I found you, or I saw you speak on TV, YouTube, whatever. And you said this, I'm having this problem. I'd love to talk to you. And here's the key, even if it's just 20 minutes, people leave it open and say, can we get together for coffee? Even I live in downtown Chicago. And even if you're in the Loop, the business district, and the person's office is there, they still have to, even let's say 15-minute walk. And if you meet in person, it's generally an hour because you go through the small talk and all that stuff. That's an hour and 15 minutes, 15 minutes back. You're asking a busy person that doesn't know you for 90 minutes of their day. That's nuts. Now with Zoom or a phone call, it just is. And for Zoom or a phone call, you can just say, hey, can I talk to you? Even if it's 20 minutes, that's so easy to say yes to. Sure, call me at noon on Friday. Boom. And they have the expectations of what the call's about. They know why you reached out to them. But if you ask someone to be your mentor, especially on a first meeting, you don't know them, that's like going on a first date with an engagement ring. You don't do it.
Well, we have Zoom now, so we can take out the 15 minutes on the front and back end, But
on Zoom, 20 minutes is easy to do.
But I think you said something that's key too earlier is whether it's networking or just getting the word out about what you're doing will attract people who will want to reach out to help. But they're in, that could be the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? You have to be careful because a lot of people might think, I can do this better than you.
As far as taking an idea, or what do you mean?
Well, so like my idea. So I'm trying to build a financial literacy program. And people will look and say, why you? And they say, well, nobody else is doing it. I understand there's smarter people. There's people who have been around longer that know more than I do, but nobody's out there trying to do it and help and make a project out of it. But if you're out there talking about it, at least you're attracting people who are starting to get your ideas and starting to learn, hey, I can help him. I might be able to help with this aspect or that aspect. And you start meeting people, reaching out. You do the one-on-ones, as we call them in the networking world. And you start learning, meeting new people, and all of a sudden some of them become mentors.
Yes.
That's a natural flow. And
that's one thing for people listening, it's like if you put your hands in two V's, like I'm doing on camera right now. So two V's intersect at the top, both at the top. When you start networking, and you're in the small part of the V, and then when you hit the middle, I say talk to anyone and everyone. And the diagram's in the book for this. But if you do it smart, the hook is it's anyone and everyone is not forever. That's where people go wrong. If you've been networking for let's say 3 years at the same events, and you're not getting referrals, and you have to, not want to, not just for branding, but you have to go to networking events to get clients, build your business, meet mentors, you're doing something wrong. You should hit a tipping point where you talk to less and less people. They're more focused relationships. They're stronger relationships. You spend more time around good people. And I did that for the launch of my book, Anyone and Everyone. And now at least 60% of my time is spent with a key group of people who are being phenomenal. They're sending me business. It's great. But I'm not going out to anyone and everyone anymore. I've limited my virtual events. When I used to go to 10, now I'll go to 2 or 3 a week, maybe. And they're the same ones where people know me. So at the very least, I'm keeping my brand. I'm keeping awareness about me. But I don't have to go to the events anymore.
Yeah. Two things I want to have our listeners understand. I mean, the book is designed. You have 8 pillars, right? And staying on kind of this mentoring one. One of the pillars in the book is launching relationship marketing campaigns,
Mhm.
right? Which caught me off guard first of all, because you don't think about launching relationship marketing campaigns. Can you help us understand what that is a little bit?
What I just explained is an outline of it, and what it is, you start marketing. People will call it referrals, whatever it might be, but you start marketing yourself through your relationships, not SEO, not my webpage, not print mail, whatever it might be. You do it through the relationships. And I recently pivoted my business so I could interview people. I decided I love interviewing people. I'm going to find a way to interview people for a living.
Yeah.
It took me a good 6 months of struggling to figure out what the heck. And I, long and short, figured out a couple of clients we're in talks with now, but they came through my relationships, a couple through events. But now my are going, oh, that's what you're doing. Sometimes it takes 5 conversations. Go, now I can wrap my head around what you're doing and I can help you. Mm-hmm. Don't expect it on the first Zoom call or the first breakout room in a virtual event.
Well, and I've shared that in today's world, social media driven, and granted, there's algorithms and stuff that work, but that's what I've told people. They're like, well. I'm like, you have to be careful what you post. You have to be, I mean, you're marketing yourself all the time to build relationships. And if I don't agree with what you post and you come up to me at an event, I'm going to be like, I'll be polite to you, but keep stepping. Right?
I'll be honest with you. The more I get into building the business and stuff, the less and less and less I post.
Yeah.
It's very rare.
Yeah,
that I'm posting much anymore.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's okay to. I mean, but it has to be on that relationship marketing piece. But we've never been taught, Mark, to market relationships, right? Which is a great piece of the book. It's one of the pillars, but it's also pretty cool to think of it differently than that. And after reading it, I was like, I guess, that's a cool way to think about it.
It's always nice to get a different perspective.
Yeah.
We can get tunnel vision, right? Or we think, we got this. But, when you listen to other people and you hear there's other ways of accomplishing something, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, that's pretty cool. And especially nowadays with the technology and everything that changes so many ways in which you can build a business or do something, and AI coming along,
that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, and that one I can really have because I don't have intelligence, so and it's artificial or real. But
I knew that one was coming.
Yeah, but so we'll let that play out, but you do got to keep on top of that, folks. And just as a sidebar, but what else you got in the book that you want to share with us?
Well, tangential, if I'm using the right word, to relationship marketing, and part of that is the whole toxic, neutral, supportive, thriving spectrum of people in your life. The key thing to remember is that it's a mixture. It's like the science experiment you might have done in middle school or high school. 2 different items separately are perfectly fine. You can touch, you're safe. Put them together and you have a volcanic eruption. It's not judging people. And I think hopefully this will help people thinking about that. If something's not right and it's a toxic relationship, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad person. It's that your relationship with them is bad. And it's not to, make it a bad breakup or anything like that, even in business and a business breakup. An example of that is Roy Kroc with McDonald's. When up and coming, he was sold paper cups in the Lily Tulip paper cup company. And he was awesome. He was a rock star. He made a lot of money. He made them a lot of money. That's how he found the McDonald's brothers, ended up selling them shake mixers and cups. While the relationship with the McDonald's brothers was toxic. He bought them out. I forget how many millions of dollars it was. They thought they were going to keep their own restaurant. He said, you can't use the name McDonald's anymore. They changed it to the Big M. He opened up a McDonald's a block away and put them out of business. That's toxic. Lily Tulip, if you ask the person from the Tulip, the paper cup company, they're going to love Ray Kroc. Ask the McDonald's brothers about Ray Kroc, middle finger. So
Yeah.
it's not about the person, it's about the dynamics of the relationship.
Kind of like Phil's and Gino's in Philadelphia with the Philly steak sandwiches. But
Not familiar with them.
what's that?
I'm not familiar with them.
Ah, well, if you've ever been there, you definitely will feel the vibe. You can stand right in the middle of the street in between the two, and you can feel the heat. But I don't know that it's real or not. But yeah, there are. How do you get rid of a toxic person in your business?
One way is just to ghost them. I mean, that's the mean way, but they'll take a hint. And I've done it, and it's happened to me. And when it does, it's like, oh God.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm not going to reach out to that person again. Or I'm really busy right now. Can you get back to me in 6 months? It's like, if you wanted to talk to me, it doesn't take 6 months. You're not busy.
But if you get ghosted, there's a point. Some people might even tell you, a mentor or a guy, a counselor or something, might come back and say, well, you need to really reach out to this person and get an understanding of why.
Of why.
Like, and I would sit there and say, well, no.
Yeah.
I don't really, it doesn't matter why. And by the time you reach back out to that person, the why has probably changed anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But so ghosting is kind of a harsh way, but it is a way that many people use, a method. But what would be a less harsh method?
Less harsh is I'm pivoting my business, or for some reason that you own. I'm going in a different direction. If it was a referral partner, I'm looking at an entirely new market. I need new referral partners, whatever it might be. It's not coming across as blunt as I don't like you anymore. It's this is what's going on in my life. This is what's changing. The dynamics just aren't working.
Yeah.
And that way it's like, okay, you're not saying you're a bad person. You're just saying, look, I'm doing something different now, or I'm on a different level. And this, I wish you the best, and part ways.
And I like that, because that's the kind of person I am. It's not just, I don't know that I could ghost somebody, but just to be honest and just say, look, it's just not working.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how I feel. And so, yes, I do feel like I'm going to take a different direction. But being fair and honest with people, I think, is important, because you're developing that reputation. And do you really want somebody out there that you ghosted, or that are going to sit there and slam the Ray Krocs of the world because you messed up with the McDonald brothers? You don't need that. It'll come back to you.
Well, you never know. This is another big one. You never know who knows who, and you never know who's going to know who in the future. So doing something like a bad ghosting or a bad breakup or something like that, or even talking bad about the person, behind the scenes, you don't know who the person you're talking to. What if they know them? Then it does damage to you, and you become the toxic person, because this person's thinking, Bill's my friend. Thinking, not saying, but very nicely, just like, Bill's my friend. What the hell are you talking about? Okay. Yeah. And they might not even tell you, but they're not going to want to talk to you. So that's another big one. People say, what was it? Disney, Bambi, Thumper. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all.
Yeah. Usually after high school, we kind of get past that stage where the gossip and all that stuff. But you're right. I mean, you don't know who the person knows. You don't know the circles they run around in, and you have no, there's this little thing out there called karma.
Mm-hmm.
And things always come back to haunt you.
There you go. Now, in your book, and this, I want to cover this because this happens to 98 to 99% of all people. And you talk about the idea gap.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to run into an idea gap. And when I was thinking about that, I didn't see a gap, right? I saw the Grand Canyon. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, they come up to it, they have great ideas, and then there's that idea gap, and they're like, well,
looks great, but what's missing?
Let me file this away. I'm done. I've come to a spot where, right? So talk about how to not get, not fall into that idea gap and make it go. I know the book talks about it a little bit, but don't give away all your secrets, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, there's something to use the analogy used to Grand Canyon. Sometimes an idea gap is a warning not to do it. If the gap is too big, you want to get a startup that needs $5 million in funding and you're not well networked and you're not a good presenter. Sometimes it's not even worth trying to. You could technically build it's going to take you 10 years to get over Grand Canyon.
Sure.
So sometimes the idea gap just is this honest reflection of this is not for me.
Yeah.
If it's smaller, that's where things like in the book, like resources, abilities, what do you have now? What do you need? And that's where, again, getting clear about it. Oh, I need to become a better presenter. And that's where mentors and anyone else asking for help. It's never in college. How do I get a job? Wrong question. You got to go to the root of the problem to build a bridge. It becomes, and good mentors can do this, and teachers and whoever it might be. Why don't you have a job yet? Because I don't have a network and I need to go to networking events is a whole different conversation than I need to beef up my resume is a whole different conversation than I need an internship. And with startups, why don't you have funding yet? Because the tech startups are all the rage and everything now, especially in Chicago.
Right.
Okay, I need a new pitch deck. Once again, is different than I need to start going to networking events or I need a mentor. And that's where I think a lot of people do go wrong with asking for help is they go 10 miles high. It's like, that's not the bridge you need to build.
Right.
You need to know what bridge you're building and why.
So what you're saying is, and this is my mindset, is there's a solution to every problem. You just have to search that solution out, but it's not necessarily on your own shoulders. You can ask for help in finding that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like networking groups. You want to learn how to be a better presenter? You're in a networking group. Hey, anybody understand, how to do a good presentation? I'm looking for some help in that area, and you'll find somebody.
Well, even virtual, I just did this with pivoting my business to be interview based instead of any type of consulting or anything like that, is going to virtual, especially because it's virtual. It's not a huge investment of your time. You can wear your pajama pants, be respectable from the waist up. It's all good. And you go to the virtual practice. If part of it is, but this was mine, I tried to sell idea climbing. It was too convoluted, too tech as far as consulting goes. I wrote the book, so what was second nature for me for a 6-month program was not for everyone else. The sales cycle was long, and I said I'm going to start interviewing people, and I built products and services around it, and it worked because they understood it. But to practice it, I intentionally went to a lot of events just to see. I'll try this pitch this time. Okay, that didn't work. I'll try this, and I got essentially free coaching. I didn't have to pay someone to practice a pitch in front of them for 2 hours. I got free practice by going to virtual networking events. So sometimes that is something that you can help yourself with, things like presentations and pitching, elevator speeches, value propositions, things like that in the world of virtual events. And it's paid dividends. I just was at an event yesterday where I told the pricing for these interview products for interviewing people about marketing as they could brand themselves, and I'll make them look good, bring out their stories. And this guy vibed, and it's not a typical situation, but he said, actually, and he gave me a number, and he said, can we create a package deal for all my clients? It's like, okay. But that's only because 6 months of not landing what I was saying and walking away from the event going, oh my God, what am I going to do? But practice, and it landed. And now I've
so get over that fear, get out there and get the experience. That's what you're missing really is experience. And it's very rare that anybody gets anything the first time right. It's very rare. And you probably don't learn very well that way, but and you're going to want to be watching September 1st, because if you want to really be a great speaker, we have Orly Amor coming up.
I love her. She is for that topic. Oh my gosh, that's going to be
yeah. So she's going to be on, and I know you know her quite well, and as do I, and so we'll kind of touch upon that subject down the road a little bit. But I like what you're saying. It's get out there. I mean, you're it's not going to just come to you inherently, and if you think hard enough about it, that
Well, the book helps you design a blueprint.
Yes.
And to be, words have meaning, right? It's not a book that says voila and you pull a rabbit out of the hat. It's here's a blueprint, and that's all you got. You got to work. You got to.
There's a process.
You got to grind. You're going to have to get dirty. I mean, you got to build what's on the blueprint. The idea of the book is here's your idea. Let's put it together and build the blueprint so that you can get there.
And every day is not going to necessarily be a successful day of moving forward. There are days I didn't want to get out of bed. I mean, just to be honest.
Yeah.
And you get over it though, but that's where the practice, and you have a bad day, chalk it up to a bad day. Fine. Don't get out of bed or watch Netflix or something, but don't do that the next day.
Yeah.
Try it again and just keep getting back up again and again and again and again. And eventually you will learn, but that's what people are afraid of. And I've had that in my own life where I was just like, I don't want another rejection. I'm not going to go to this networking event because they're not going to understand what I'm saying. But then luckily it was like, buck up. So what?
Also, it's mindset.
Get on Zoom.
Well, I take a look. My great grandfather built houses during the Depression, and he had a tractor, and he had a basically a scraper on the back of that tractor, and that's how he dug foundations.
Okay.
And then he cut every piece of wood by hand, but he would go and tear down a barn or something and use the wood during the Depression. Right? It was a brilliant craftsman, but there's no way I would build a house with that technology today. Right. So as we're doing this, somebody's like, there's got to be an easier way than a handsaw. What if I run, what if I create a thing that cuts the wood, now we've got all these saws, we've got pneumatic tools,
Well, Mark said
we've
that
got 3D printers building houses.
I mean, Mark said the primary word, learn.
Yeah.
I mean, even the bad days, that make you not want to get up the next day. There's something to be learned from that.
Yeah.
And own it. Because that's you.
Yeah.
Your choices, your decisions you made, and those are the repercussions for those decisions, consequences.
Yeah.
Which that's a word I love the word consequences, but most people forget that there are good consequences and bad consequences. It can go both ways.
Well, even on the bad days, for people listening, one thing that helped me that I recently went through, I had a bad spell when I was refocusing. And it's Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, and Bob Proctor when he was around. That you become what you think about all day. And what helped me get out of the funk was I actually started becoming very conscious. I didn't realize that unconsciously I had the soundtracks in my head of "you suck," or "oh, you're not going to get the next client." And when I became aware of my thoughts, I was like, "What the heck? And why am I thinking that? That's nuts. Let's focus on the book launch that went awesomely. Let's focus on that." I don't care if it was 10 conversations in one day. One of them was good. And I started redoing the tracks in my head about this is how I succeeded, writing it down, gratitude journal. You become what you think about all day. And so many people just go on autopilot. Someone cuts them off in traffic on the way to work. They don't even think about the rest of the day. And they carry it to the water cooler. They carry it into the office. They carry it into their coworkers because they're not aware of what they're thinking when they could. It's not always easy. Like I said, some days it ain't going to work. But for the long term, what you might take time at first, when you start doing that, your brain will start replaying the good stuff. And your unconscious is going to start naturally gravitating towards the good experiences you have. Why? That's what you focus on. And if you become what you focus on and what you think about all day, you may as well make it good, and you may as well focus on the success, even if it's, like I said, 1 out of 10 calls.
I love this, Mark, because this is something I when I mentor the kids in high school, one of the first things I always tell them is you need to, maybe once a week, you need to go back and think about some of the good things that happened, because we don't do that. We aren't taught that. We don't. We dwell on the negative. We thrive on the negative. I mean, it's you can call it human nature, because and we're told from the earliest ages is like learn from your mistakes. So we focus on that, and it's like,
and if you're focusing on mistakes, you're just going to make more.
Right. Just you're going to find new ways to make them, and maybe you ought to do that journal and say, okay, found a new way to screw this up. Let's write this down. But so I really love that you brought that up.
And it's one thing to put a pin in that, it is a negative thought, and this has been proven scientifically, brain chemicals and other stuff cannot exist in your brain at the same time as a positive thought. It's physically impossible.
Really?
So, and again, it might take time. Positive, good call, bad. Oh, good. If you start focusing on that, that's what I'll say it again. The unconscious will start rewiring itself to start gravitating towards the positive. Why? Because that's what you're feeding it now. Even if it's not a lot at first, even if there's a Netflix day or a Netflix week.
I'm trying that with my driving habits. My wife likes to comment on, she's just, you're always complaining. I go, your dad always was just like this too. And I'm always like, come on, speed up. Come on. You're not going this, the speed limit even, or why'd you change lanes? And that was stupid. And watch this guy. And my wife's just like, stop it. I go, but this is how I drive. This is just what I do when I drive. But now I have been working on trying to think more positive. Like, okay, maybe that person there's something going on that I don't know about.
Not me.
That's one. I forget where I read it or heard it, but that's another thing where your thoughts, you decide why that person cut you off. If they're an idiot or a word, then fine. You know what? The rest of the day is there's going to be an idiot that cut you off to be mean to you because they're an aggressive driver. What if he was in a rush to get to the hospital because his wife was in the emergency room? It had nothing to do with you. You're never going to know the difference. Why not choose the positive one? You can decide, I don't know where he was going, but man, I hope he gets there okay. It's just as easy as you can ruin your day because you're thinking of the guy to cut you off.
Well, you have a good point. But the reality is it might just be an idiot.
No, what I say is like, the race is on. Okay. I'm going to get up on their bumper, do a little bump drafting on them. I go NASCAR on them. Let's go.
I will tell you, I thought there was NASCAR on the highways Wednesday night. I was coming home from the concert at Wrigley, and I'm clipping along pretty good. And these three vehicles blew by me like I was standing still. And I was good 15 over the speed limit at myself. And
what's that license plate number?
These guys, these guys just went flying by. And I was fully expecting to see some kind of an accident not far ahead in no time. But
my wife, even when they do that, my wife's like, it's not a race. They don't. I got to back off. Right.
Yeah, I know. It's hard not to push that pedal to the metal and see if I can't catch up to them.
I'll show it.
But no, it's more like, good. They're going to clear out the cops in front of me so I can go a little faster.
Yeah. Now we're back in the back end of this. Mark, you also have a very, 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 very successful podcast.
Yes.
We're in conversations to start airing that podcast here on 21.6. The name of the podcast, and I think the last I checked was episode 76 or something.
You got it. 70s. If you go to, I'm sure not sure. It's the same on other platforms, but it's on all the platforms: Spotify, Android, Google Play. Most people use Apple Podcasts, and if you type in "idea climbing," I'm the first one. It's a white background, a microphone, my Compass logo, and the title "Idea Climbing" in red letters.
Yeah, and episode 76 is how to market yourself with neuroscience.
That was an interesting one. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
I learned so much from that one myself.
I got
it is good.
I got to watch that one. I haven't seen that one. Very cool.
Yeah.
But
and
yeah, so
it's an audio podcast.
Yes.
So on my YouTube station, which on markjcarter.com has a link to it. On the YouTube station, that's where all my videos lie. I don't put because a lot of times I'll do double duty with guests for 25 minutes on a podcast, but then I love to open the door to share their genius even more. And on YouTube, it becomes 8 unedited minutes as the brand. So I have 2 opportunities to share people's genius, not just one.
That's awesome.
That's outstanding. So, okay, awesome. Yeah. I know. I've been a guest.
Yeah, we're right on the back end of that. But Mark, again, appreciate who you are and everything you're doing. Love the thought.
Great to have you back.
Yeah,
good to be back.
Leader, which is cool. So
great to see updated what all's going on. It's fantastic. I look forward to seeing you very soon again. And thank you for coming on.
That's it.
Thanks for having me. It's always fun.
Go out and buy his book. Go to you can go to Amazon or just go to what is it?
IdeaClimbingBook.com.
IdeaClimbingBook.com. And help him out. You will literally enjoy this book.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. It's all about the process to get where you're hoping to get to.
That's it. Hey, Pravos here at 21.6 the Net for innovative strategies. And Bill Haase. Thanks for getting caught in the net with us today. And until next time, be good, but keep thinking of those ideas and keep climbing.
Thanks for joining us in today, Mark. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks again for having me. This has been a blast.
We'll see you soon.